Hello, fellow listeners, and welcome to my very first podcast with Mr. Gene Clark. I met Gene online by looking at his YouTube videos where he shares book reviews just like the ones I make. And just thought it would be really cool for you to have a podcast where we discuss some of our favorite big ideas from As a Man Thinketh, since that's a book that we both think is really inspiring and great and has a lot of ideas that we can apply to our lives. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, G?
Yes, thank you, Frode. Started my YouTube channel about a year ago, and I think I found you along the way. I think I found both your channels separately, and at first I didn't realize they were two different channels. So, really happy we were able to connect, and we've covered a few of the same books, and As a Man Thinketh is one of them. And I'm just excited to be here with you today, finally connect and talk to somebody else who's as excited about the self-development genre as I am. So thank you for inviting me to connect with you and to have this conversation.
No worries. Yeah, and I'm really excited to dive in. So let's just begin. We both have prepared some of our favorite big ideas, and we'll go kind of back and forth and talk about our best insights. So why don't you start with your first one?
So it's such a small, well, I say small book. It's such a quick read. It's not a lot of pages, so I feel like the concepts and the areas I like are really just covered in some of the topics themselves. And one we hear a lot of in self-development, and one that is covered right off the bat in As a Man Thinketh is power of thought. And it's all about mindset and your subconscious mind. And what amazes me is as I read more books, the themes of those tend to repeat themselves. And I think authors gather information they like from other authors from years gone by. And when I was originally doing my research for As a Man Thinketh, I learned it was basically the first true kind of self-help book that was written. And it's one of the ways the power of thought and the power of your mindset really came about, or I guess gained traction in it. And so that's just one of those powerful concepts for me that came from As a Man Thinketh. How about
Mm.
yourself?
Oh yeah, I totally agree on that one. It's like the power of thoughts that you become what you think. That's actually the very first idea I had also written down. So yeah, it's really all about how every single thought we think shapes our behaviors, our actions, and eventually our habits. And also with the regards to the kind of attitudes we have on life, like we will get what we are giving to the world. So if we think happy and uplifting and positive thoughts, we will get happy and uplifting and positive situations in life. Yeah, and then another big idea is to think with purpose. The James Allen says something like, uh, "Without a clear purpose, there is no intelligent accomplishment." And it just really struck me as so true because another word for purpose is goal, having some definite aim we're directing our minds toward. And it's really intuitive and simple that if we don't have a clear target, then it's very difficult to hit it. And apart from just the simple idea of having a goal, so we want to split our energy in too many directions, having a purpose is also helpful for not worrying and having so much self-pity like most people do from bad things that happen in life. Like it starts raining, or someone cuts us off in traffic, or someone says something that insults us. And if we have a clear vision of something we are very excited about achieving, then those things won't really matter that much because they won't get in the way of our goal. Unless someone actually comes to physically hold us down so we won't be able to write or speak or go studying or work, then nothing should really matter of those small petty things. So yeah,
Right.
that's just one of the great ideas that I like very much. Do you
And
have
and
another one? Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say I agree with what you're saying. Thought and purpose. You can't just think though, and eventually you've got to get action behind your thoughts, and you've got to focus on that goal. And I love. Oh man, I can't find. I didn't write the quote down, but it's something to the extent of if you're just sitting around thinking all these grandiose thoughts and you don't act upon them and you don't go out and do, then you might as well just be thinking about anything. And it doesn't matter that you've got these bigger goals for yourself. If you're not putting that into action, then nothing is going to come about and you're just wasting your time. And I love that because so many critics of this genre of books always are saying, oh, people are too obsessed with reading them and they're so into the books and the podcast and YouTube channels. They don't actually go out and do anything. They just try to consume, consume, and consume. And that's not the point. Even though a lot of the books have, when you dig down, a very similar message, and a lot of them get their information from As a Man Thinketh, it still boils down to, okay, the message might be presented in a different way that resonates with different people, that gives them something else they can take away. But at the end or in the middle of every book, you're getting that you got to go out and do something. You got to go out and take action. Otherwise, you can't accomplish anything. And I loved that. Essentially, the first self-help book ever written argues against what all the critics say about the entire genre. So I love that. I love that.
Oh yeah, that's a very good insight. I love the focus on not just reading the books and like theorizing about things, but also actually taking action and making things happen. So I really like saying that one person can read 100 books and still be a failure, and another one can read no books at all and be a huge success. And the difference is
Right.
really about the amount of ideas we act upon, because we don't only get ideas from books. We can also get them from people or experience and so many other different ways.
Yes. And um, I've got a quote I got, and it's a long one, but it goes along with the ideas. And this is probably my favorite quote from the book. It's man's mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild, but whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein and will continue to produce their kind. So good thoughts bear good fruit, bad thoughts bear bad fruit. And it's about acting on those good thoughts and not acting on bad thoughts. And I love that. I think that's right there at the beginning of the book. And I think it really sets the tone for the entire message.
Yeah, very good point. That's also actually one of my really favorite quotes from the book. It's almost like the whole book is one long quote. And that's also something I see James Allen has actually written a lot of different volumes. I have one book at home, which is like a collection of many of his essays and his poems. And yeah, it's like 1,000 pages, this real huge brick of a book.
Wow.
I actually got like
Wow.
20 pages into it because it's so much, and I really haven't gotten into it again. I have like, I just put it aside and read other things instead. But yeah, that's really amazing thought that our mind is like a garden and that we can choose to cultivate it well or not well. kind of like pouring dirt water into our mind, or planting bad seeds if we are taking in bad information, and just like much in the media, or taking in the like negative opinions of others and really believing them or something. And then we might pour clear water into our mind by taking in inspirational books and having inspiring conversations with people, and yeah, just taking in a much better in kinds of information will decide what
Mhm.
kinds of seeds get planted.
And it's like you were saying earlier, it's about that positive mindset. And I have personally tried to avoid a lot of mainstream media, and a lot of news channels, just because even if it's a somewhat neutral story, there always seems to be a negative undertone. And there's so many negative stories out there. And I feel like they feel obligated because they know they present so much negativity that they have to have that, one little segment on each show where, oh, this was a great story about an animal that was rescued by an orphan and they were adopted, and like this crazy over the top inspirational story that they feel like they have to add just because everything else is negativity and negativity.
Mm, yeah, it's kind of amazing how much negativity people can find if they really try.
Mm-hmm.
And some people get kind of good at it, especially journalists. I often see. Yes,
Yeah.
not everyone, of course, but yeah, some. Yeah. So another really cool idea from the book that struck me and resonated very well is visions and ideals. It's much like the other ideas in the book, but there's this story that James kind of tells about this boy who is in this workshop, and he feels like hampered and like he's being limited. But for every spare moment he has, he spends reading books and visualizing a better life for himself. And eventually, his mind and his visions and ideals become too big, such that the workshop can no longer hold him. It's just not synchronized or harmonizing with the kinds of ideals he has. And therefore, he gets out and becomes like a very impactful speaker, and holds powers of the mind that soothe the crowd and all of that. So it becomes a really important person eventually who helps many people.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I love that section as well. It's all about, not discounting your thoughts for greatness and your aspirations. You should go out and chase them, and follow those. And I think in that section there's a quote. It's the greatest achievement was at first and for a time a dream, and dreams are the seedlings of reality. And it just goes back to that mindset. And the more you think about various concepts, the more it becomes part of your subconscious mindset. And if you can go out and act on those and finally go out and do, then you can achieve anything you want to achieve.
yeah, very well said. That's actually one of the best ideas from Orison Swett Marden, also, who is the founder of Success magazine. Back in the 20th century, he wrote on very similar ideas to James Allen, like holding a steady vision in your mind, and having very clear pictures of what you want to accomplish, and then forcing yourself towards those images by thinking about them constantly, much like Allen says that our life is shaped by our thoughts. So that's just a cool connection that I thought of just now.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's so many good quotes from the book about. I mean, it's as a man thinketh, so it's all about your thoughts. But talking about that, when James Allen says, "A man can only rise, conquer, and achieve by lifting up his thoughts," that's just so powerful to me. That's just like just by you're never going to be successful if you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe you can achieve those goals and those dreams that you have.
Hmm. No, no, definitely not. It's just so foundational. And it's like a very inspiring thought. I actually listened dozens, literally, of times to the audiobook of As a Man Thinketh in the past. And I started memorizing so many different quotes and passages. But one that struck me very well is as the physically weak man can make himself strong by careful and patient training, so the man of weak thoughts can make them strong by exercising themselves in right thinking. And it's just like you said that man must make your thoughts stronger and more, lift them up more, so you can start achieving more.
Yep. Yeah, I remember when I was in school and we had a kid. He hated coming to. Uh, I don't know what class it was, but he hated going to that class. I think it was sociology, something like that. And so what he had told himself is, you know what, every day I'm going to come into this class and I'm going to be over the top excited about it. And even though it's going to be a little, you know, I'm going to be lying to myself in the beginning, I'm going to do this every day anyway. And after a couple of months of doing that, he literally started coming in and he was genuinely excited to come into class and excited to learn what was going on. And he ended up being one of the most involved kids in the class. And it was because he had come in so many times just saying, okay, it's going to be a good class. I love this class. It's my favorite class. That eventually that mindset just stuck. And eventually he wasn't having to tell himself that. He genuinely felt, okay, this is a great class. I love it.
Wow, that's a great story. Yeah, thank you for sharing it. It's so easy to think about these ideas on the abstract level and then just talk about them. But yeah, it's very useful to have a story about someone actually using them, and that's what I find really inspiring. Yeah, yeah. So I really must say that I don't have any more like distinct ideas that I found in the book. So why don't you share the one or more ideas that you have, if you want to talk about some more?
Um, we have covered so many. I mean, we've kind of covered this already. Really, it was just the thought factor in achievement. If we can achieve it in our mind, we can achieve it in reality. And that, I mean, we've covered that through our quotes and the other things um, we've talked about already. I mean, it's such a short book. I think I was looking up different copies on Amazon, and I think they're anywhere from 26 pages to like 53 pages is the longest one. And the audiobook, I mean, you can knock it out in about 50 minutes, I think. So it's such a quick book that even if you're getting so much great information out of it, there's still only so much information in it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's very true. It's really the same kind of ideas that get repeated again and again eventually when you have kind of been through it. But that's a really big thing about repetition. That the more times you repeat a certain idea, the more likely you are to actually embody it. So it's still very useful. Yeah, right.
That's right.
So yeah, it was really nice talking to you today, Gene, and I'm very happy about um, sharing and discussing ideas together, such that our listeners could also get into the favorite ideas that we found in the book, kind of to perhaps so that they could get inspired to read them themselves, or just be happy with the knowledge and wisdom they got from this video or podcast. So why don't you tell our listeners, where they can best connect with you and learn more?
Yep, the best way to connect with me is over on my channel, Self Development Quest. And what I'll do is I will leave a link to my channel down in the comment section of this video. And then over on my channel, if you will leave a link to your channel, that would be perfect.
Great. Yeah, then we'll do that. And yeah, thank you so much for having this discussion today, Gene. And I look forward to talk to you more soon.
Yes, thank you very much, Frode. I hope everybody enjoys this. I know I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being a part of this, and hopefully we'll have more of these videos in the future.
Yes, definitely. It's such a great idea to discuss these ideas because there are many modes of learning. Like you can read them, you can listen to them, you can discuss them, act on them. And today we discussed them. And fellow listeners, you are the average of the 5 people you spend your time with. And yeah, you just spent your time with Frode and Gene talking about As a Man Thinketh. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to see you soon.